My name is Richard Kerr, and I'm 53, and I believe my first time being trafficked to England was on February of 1977.
Richard Kerr has suffered for over 30 years in silence, blocking out the horrors of his past at the hands of what he describes as very powerful people. As a teenager, he was introduced to the world of Westminster. He says he was trafficked from Northern Ireland and that this picture was taken by one of his abusers.
I was used as a boy toy. I was an object, a sexual object.
Rumours of an alleged paedophile ring in the top echelons of society have been circulating for years. But for the first time, Richard's account of what happened to him as a boy links three locations. Dolphin Square, a luxury complex popular with MPs and civil servants. Kincora Boys' Home in Belfast, where boys were systematically abused. And Elm Guesthouse, a former gay brothel where young children are also said to have been molested. We brought Richard back to England from America, along with his counsellor, to revisit his past. His memories were vivid and distressing.
I'm sorry.
A cottage industry of conspiracy theories has built up around this story, but Richard insists a VIP paedophile ring did exist, and it's time for the truth to be told.
They were men who had control and power over others.
They were politicians, you believe?
Some I do.
His story starts in Belfast in the 1970s at the now notorious Kincora Boys' Home. He was placed in care from the age of 5 and sent to Kincora at 14, where he was abused. There he claims he and 2 other boys were hand-picked to be trafficked to London and sexually abused by further men. Both of them, he says, have since taken their own lives.
We were throwaways. That's how I felt. I felt a throwaway. I was exploited.
Richard says in 1977, when he was 15, he was put on a ferry to Liverpool, abused by a man there, then escorted to Manchester and later sent to London. He claims he was picked up in a car at King's Cross Station, taken to a hotel close by and forced to have sex with multiple men.
I had no way to get to England. I had no money. You know, I was under the state care. They were responsible for me. I had no one else to turn to. This is the place that I remember very well, and the memories that I tried to block many, many years ago.
How do you feel about the boy you remember here?
Very emotional. Very painful. Sorry. I'm scared.
He says he's faced years of intimidation and is still being warned not to talk by people he believes are connected to the alleged paedophile ring. Some of his sharpest memories are of the fear he felt when he says he was visited by detectives on 2 separate occasions and told to keep quiet.
They told me to stop talking about Kincora, and that they intimidated me here. There is another place where in Preston, Lancashire, they told me they could put me away.
He claims he was trafficked across the UK, including to Rochdale, Lancaster, Manchester and Wolverhampton. But it's here, at Elm Guesthouse in South London, that he says he faced his most violent experience. It was raided by police in 1982. Newspapers at the time said that at least 3 MPs were questioned. It's claimed the late Sir Cyril Smith was a visitor. It was being used as a gay brothel, and it was alleged children as young as 10 were abused. It's the first time Richard's been back, and the flashbacks come fast.
I was tied up here. I do remember that. I don't know why I was tied up, but I was tied up. with my hands behind my back. I do remember that. Laying down, and they took photographs. Other men were here. Other men came into the room. It just wasn't this one man. There were other men here.
In the 80s, it was reported officers found whips, chains and ropes.
I don't mean to be this way. It happened. You know, I just don't mean to be... It's just holding on to all this sometimes. And, I can't believe this happened.
In the 1970s in Piccadilly Circus, Richard said he was picked out from a group of boys sitting upstairs inside the wimpy fast food restaurant.
Would you describe the activity around here as a paedophile ring?
Oh, yeah, there's no question about that. Oh, yes, definitely.
Why are you so convinced of that?
Because of the people I was involved with. And the boys were in groups, even though we were spread across the tables. And the way they set it up, the clients and locations.
One of the locations he claims he was taken to in a taxi was an apartment complex in the heart of Westminster known as Dolphin Square. It is now at the nexus of the Met Police's Operation Midland, which is also looking into alleged murders.
I could have been 16, 15, 17. I remember going in with this guy, and he told me to sit down, relax, and explain about his glasses. And he said he had a Waterford Crystal, and he wanted me to have a brandy, and we had more brandy. And then we had a sexual encounter in here.
Did you ever meet any of the men that have been named to have had alleged contact with young boys?
I just don't want to get into that right now. I really don't. I'm talking to my attorneys, legal.
And why is that? Why don't you want to talk about it yet?
I'm still concerned. There are some people still around. And I'm concerned. Most of these people were very well off, but most of them had positions of power that had influence over others.
Why don't you feel yet, after all these years, that you can name your abusers who were in power?
I'm still in some fear, even though I'm willing to take the courage. I need to know that I can have faith in our government.
And central to achieving that trust, he says, is getting the government to acknowledge what he calls the untold story of Kincora Boys' Home, that he claims goes way beyond Northern Ireland. In 1981, 3 senior staff at Kincora were convicted of abusing 11 boys. There's been 2 judge-led inquiries, but allegations of a high-level cover-up continue. Despite claims that abuse in Kincora was connected to England, the Home Secretary, Theresa May, has so far ruled out including it in the official child abuse inquiry.
Right now, when they're not willing to bring Kincora into Westminster, that just tells that the message it sends to me is that there's some kind of cover-up, and there has been.
It's claimed British security services knew about the crimes in Belfast but did nothing to stop them, using the knowledge to blackmail and extract intelligence from influential men. In 1975, as the Troubles were taking hold, a young army intelligence officer called Brian Gemmell was working undercover and tried to blow the whistle. We brought Richard to meet him for the first time.
You must be Richard.
Yes,
I'm Brian, Richard. It's good to meet you. Come on in. Let's talk. Come on in.
Brian says he put in an official report about Kincora to a senior MI5 officer, but to his astonishment, he claims he was ordered to stop digging and forget about it.
That's the thing that hits me. That if I'd really pushed the thing through in 75, 76, You could have been rescued. I'm sorry.
Thank you for that. I've been in a lot of pain, a lot of suffering, and I have survival guilt.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's a calling. I believe it's a calling, and I'm not here. This is less selfish of myself. I'm not here to think of me.
Right.
I get peace from that.
Yes. And I ask it in Jesus' name. Amen.
But it's hard to heal without the truth, and Brian now believes to establish that Kincora must be added to the UK inquiry.
Why do you think it should be?
I think 2 words, Richard Kerr. I think Richard's transporting over to the United Kingdom mainland to be abused, rather than just being abused in Northern Ireland, speaks volumes. It ties the two together. He is a Kincora boy that knows what goes on in Dolphin Square.
Do you think there are still efforts to try and cover up?
I do.
Richard is open about the fact he went on in his adult life in London to be paid for sex with men. It was, he says, the only life he knew. He later emigrated to America.
Would you concede that you became a male prostitute?
I would answer it this way. I didn't become. That's what they made me to be. I had no awareness that I would be that. They shaped me, groomed me, and that's what my life was.
He says he's decided to speak out now for his 2 friends trafficked with him, no longer alive to tell their tales.
It's not about me. It's about the voices that didn't have a voice, and I don't know, my spirit is driving me.
And he has this message for the Home Secretary, Theresa May.
I want those who are responsible brought to justice. Yes, we can't fail in this. We just can't. If we do this now, if we fail on this, we are allowing this to continue. That they can get away from this because people have decided to turn the other way.
The idea those inside the corridors of power were part of a sophisticated UK-wide paedophile ring has been dismissed by some. But Richard is adamant there was one, and that he is living proof.